Hey everyone, in this video I am going to show you how to create a ruffle or frill brush in Adobe Illustrator. Here I have an example of this continuous pattern brush, and here's an example of the repeat we are going to create. Alright, so to start we're going to draw a rectangle. So we'll navigate to our rectangle tool. I'm going to make this rectangle 0.75 inches by 1 inch in height. And I want to make sure it has a gray fill and a black stroke. So I will give it this light gray fill, and I'll be sure to keep that black stroke. All right, so now that we have our first rectangle, we can go ahead and we will scale this rectangle so that it flares out at the bottom. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can either select the bottom right point and move out with our arrow keys by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example, and then go to the left, do that again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or there's another way we can do this that's a little bit faster. In the toolbar, we have the scale tool. It's underneath the scissors here. And what I can do is I can select these bottom 2 points and then use the scale tool to move them at the same time. So I'll select this bottom right point, hold shift, go to the bottom left point, and then activate my scale tool. And as I pull, it moves each point out in opposing directions. So it's scaling it out. And this just makes it a little easier than counting points sometimes. So I'm going to scale this out a little bit. And I think I'm going to scale it in at the top as well. What's important is that each side is brought in the exact same amount. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the shape. So I'm holding Option and Shift and I'm dragging to duplicate the shape. And then I also want to rotate it around so that the wide part is at the top. So I'm going to go to the corner here and my rotation tool is activated. And I'm going to hold Shift while rotating so that it snaps around. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring this up to the first shape. We'll start by adding the curve to the first ruffle. To do this, I'm going to use the Convert Anchor Point tool that is hidden under the pen tool. Shift-C is the shortcut. And so I'm going to use this tool to give this little flare to the bottom. So I'm going to go bring that up, and then I'll kind of bring this down. And I can use the Anchor Point tool to adjust these curves. And that looks pretty good to me. Next, we're going to adjust the center one. Now, you can see there's a little bit of an overlapping here. We can overlap this by making sure it's a little bit longer than the first one. And we can also make sure we send it to the back. All right, so there's a little overlap. And now we can go ahead and use our Anchor Point tool to add this curve. This is important because these ruffles will have the smiles and the frowns. So that's what we're doing right now. We're creating the smiles and the frowns. And that looks pretty good to me. Now I'm looking at it compared to my first one. It's looking a little wider than I want it to be. So I'm going to select both of these together. And I'm just going to bring them in a little bit. And that looks good to me. Before I duplicate my first shape, I need to go ahead and add in these pleats. So we're going to use, you can use the pen tool or you could use the pencil tool. I'll go ahead and use the pencil tool for this. It's underneath the shape tool. And I'm just going to draw in this little kind of pleat line. And I like using the pencil tool because it feels like a little more, I don't know, organic than the pen tool. And I'll do this here again on the middle. We need to add a variable width profile to these pleat lines so that it looks like it is going from thick to thin and it looks more hand-drawn. Let's go up here in our control panel. I am working in the Essentials Classic workspace. You can also find the variable width profile under the stroke panel, you show all the options. And so the variable width profile I want to use this taper. So it goes from thick to thin. And that looks pretty good to me. I can spend a minute kind of messing with these drape lines a little bit, using my white arrow, making sure that they hit the top here. And I think that looks really good. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to select all of the elements in the first shape, all 3 of these objects, and I'm going to copy them over here. And I can have it just overlap a little bit if I want, or be right aligned there. This looks good to me. And now I'm at the point where I need to create the pattern brush. So I need to define the boundary using a clear rectangle so that the computer will say, hey, this is where the pattern begins, this is where the pattern ends. All right, so to define the boundary, I'm going to click on the first shape and I see the center point. So that's going to help me create a guide. So with the rulers on, Command R, I'm going to click over here and drag a guide out, and it's going to snap here to this center point, and I let go. I'm going to click on the third shape and I'm going to do the same. So I click, drag out my guide, let go. All right, so this is going to be the pattern repeat area for this brush. I need to use the rectangle tool and I need it to be a clear rectangle. So I'm clearing out these colors. You can use the backslash on your keyboard to clear out the fill and the stroke. And I'm going to line up with my guides and draw this clear rectangle. All right, so there's the rectangle. Now, it's important that I send this rectangle to the very back of the document because it needs to be behind all of these items in order for it to define the area. And before I go ahead and put it into the brushes panel, I need to turn off my guides. With my clear boundary drawn, I'm going to select all of the elements in this pattern brush and the boundary, and I'm going to open my brushes panel. I can add this brush a couple different ways. I can go ahead and just drag it in here and it'll give me this new brush dialog box, or I can click this plus sign in the brushes panel and it will give me the dialog box. I could also go up to the hamburger menu here and click new brush. All 3 ways work well, whatever is easiest for you to remember. And I'm going to select pattern brush. That is the most important part of this, and I click OK. And here I see how the brush is looking in a little preview. I want to go in and define the corners. I'm going to choose the auto-centered corners. This is how the brush will look at a right angle. And I'm going to choose the inside corner as well. I'll click auto-centered and I'm going to click OK. And now it's time for me to test out this brush. So I'm going to go to my pen tool and I'll draw a line and I'll hit return to release that line. And I'm going to click on this brush and my brush has been applied. Now this brush has been drawn pretty large. So you might want to draw your brush at a smaller scale, one that makes more sense in relation to the size of your croquis. But if you ever need to scale it up or down, you can go over here to the stroke panel and you can scale it down. Now, you just want to make sure that you expand the appearance of your brush by going to Object Expand in order to recolor this or in order to manipulate any of the lines. I will say, if you want your brush to have a little bit more variation, you can do more repeats for your pattern brush so that it looks a little bit more organic. You can clearly see the repeat of my brush, but if I were to add a couple more ruffles into this brush, that would help create a more organic looking brush. All right, I hope that helps you create a ruffle or frill brush. Please let me know if you have any questions.